Nations are advancing their military operations in space, and that raises the question, how is it regulated? Welcome back to The Why. I'm Lauren Magarino. In space, there are no borders, and nations, as well as companies, can build and launch satellites. Think Elon Musk and the Starlink satellite service. But there are some treaties in effect. Joining us to talk about it is Sophie Goguichvili, Program Associate at the Wilson Center Science and Technology Innovation Program. International treaties on space include bans against putting weapons of mass destruction in space. There's an agreement on rescuing astronauts and even one about the moon. But since those agreements were signed, private companies have really entered the mix here and accessed space. How does that change things?
Thanks, Lauren, for the question. So it's no secret that international space law is a product of its time, right? Which effectively makes it a product of the Cold War era. And when the 5 UN space treaties were being written, negotiators weren't thinking about democratizing internet access through space like Starlink today. They were thinking about ICBMs and security. And since space activities were largely conducted by state actors back then, negotiators prioritized controlling state actions more than those of private actors. However, they were pretty intelligent and didn't completely leave private actors out of the equation. Article 6 of the Outer Space Treaty, for example, holds states internationally responsible for all national activities conducted in outer space, including those carried out by private actors, which has traditionally been done through licensing agreements. But regardless, the current architecture is outdated. It doesn't accommodate for the proliferation of private actors or the vast array of activities they conduct these days.
In a recent paper, you made an analogy to civil aviation, writing, civil aviation could not function effectively if states didn't agree on norms and best practices for air traffic control or flight safety. Do you feel the situation in space is in disarray?
The U.S. Space Command is currently tracking over 47,000 objects in space, which is less than 0.1% of objects orbiting Earth. These objects can travel at incredibly high speeds, fast enough for relatively small pieces of debris, even a speck of paint, to damage a satellite or a spacecraft. And with each new collision, tens of thousands of pieces of debris could be created and exponentially increase the threat of future collisions. And this is known as the Kessler syndrome. Today, the state of space traffic management is less traffic management than situational awareness. So rather than having a shared knowledge and a shared ability to maneuver in a congested environment, we simply know the location of spacecraft and space debris. This decentralized structure is no longer adequate for how deeply space underpins critical infrastructure, especially when it comes to military operations and national security priorities. And as an international community, we have to work towards advancing a safe and effective space traffic management framework, or we risk jeopardizing the very space infrastructure that enables modern-day life here on Earth, if not the safe and sustainable use and exploration of outer space, period.
I didn't even realize a speck of paint could cause that much of an effect. So Sophie Goguichvili at the Wilson Center, thank you so much for joining us on The Why and really providing some critical context here on what we got to keep an eye on. Thank you.
Thank you.